Howdy, y'all. Marqus Aycart here, your friendly neighborhood branding guy with over 20 years of experience as a creative director and brand developer. And you are watching and listening to Made You Look, the podcast that's all about brand identity, strategies, the art of storytelling, and creating those first impressions that become lasting impressions. On today's episode, we're diving deep into messaging, positioning, brand perception, and the realities of balancing your business ambitions, and in this case, parenthood. My guest is Nadya Ramos, a fractional CMO who helps brands clarify their message, strengthen their positioning, and show up with more intention in the marketplace. And because there's some natural overlap here, in brand development, and it encompasses so many things, I think it's going to be a great conversation where we continue this process to peel the layers when it comes to what is branding. So, this episode is going to be all about exploring not just what brands say, but how they're built, how they're perceived, and how the person behind the brand makes it all happen. Suave, hit it.
This is a test.
Nadya, welcome to Made You Look.
Thank you for having me.
All right. I think our two worlds have been orbiting one another for quite some time because originally you're coming from Texas, right? Or California?
I'm from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Originally from New Jersey. I was born in Honduras.
Okay. Okay.
Family moved to New Jersey when I was about 7. And then, I did the got married, got pregnant thing, and then moved to Arizona, bought the house, got married, and then had the baby, all in that order. Moved to Arizona for 3 years, then Texas for 1 year. And now I'm back. Single mom with a 7-year-old. And that I know we're going to talk about a little bit later, balancing motherhood.
I
and
mean, it's
business.
all part of work-life balance, right? It's almost like a mythological beast, or like Moby Dick, the it's out there, but a lot of people can't find it, right? But that's the ultimate goal, right? Work-life balance. So I'm glad to have you here. I was going to say, for those meeting you for the first time, I think you laid it all out there. But, I'm still going to dive deeper. I want you to give us this is Made You Look. We're talking about, everything that encompasses branding, the world of business, and we're going to get into it, storytelling, right? Whether it's on the business side or on the personal side. So give me the Nadya Ramos overview. Who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it so well?
So I started wanting to go into journalism. I took a lot of...
I'm learning a lot today.
I took a lot of PR and writing classes in college. I thought that I wanted to go into the newsroom, be an anchor, and that whole jazz. And then after taking a couple classes in PR, and I started like a video blog when that was not what everyone else was doing. I started doing all these quirky little things that showed me the impact that communications can have on a community and a people and a business, right? And then I got my first paid internship for $10 an hour, even though I already had a communications degree. But that's the best that I could find in Atlantic City, where I grew up. $10 an hour doesn't get you very far, right? Even back then. But the good thing about that is I landed with a group of people, about 12 people. None of them were from Atlantic City. They were from Philadelphia and other parts of the tri-state area. And they all brought a lot of experience, like experienced people that I still respect till this day.
Okay. So like mentors, they served as mentors?
So it was an internship working with the public relations manager. And I was one of the people as an intern who got to see the very first free beach concert in Atlantic City that brought 60,000 people to the city.
Wow.
And then 70,000 people the year after that. And now that's I think they're still running. I don't think it's not free anymore. But so their goal was to bring people to the city of Atlantic City, change the perception of the city of Atlantic City, which has been known as a gambling resort.
Yeah.
But they turned the narrative around and made it family friendly and highlighted all the other things about the city that just were not being talked about, right? Because it doesn't make for good news. That showed me truly what being behind the scenes of messaging and marketing and positioning, what that can do to a people.
Look at that, how we're coming full circle here.
Yeah. So I got to work as a casino dealer, dealing blackjack.
Wow.
So I got to see both sides of not just working in the business of gaming, but what can the business of gaming do for the people that work there and whose children go to school there? What can the business of communications, marketing, what can all of that do for each other so that it's not just, okay, the tourists come here and spend their money at the casino and then leave. And, you know, it kind of, it just designs the town to not lend itself for a very family friendly, you know, kid raising environment. So that's how I started. And, you know, now 2026, I have my own boutique marketing firm, primarily working with finance coaches, consultants, and community builders.
And what's it called? Because we're going to put that right on the screen.
It's Marca Marketing Consulting.
But it's not spelled phonetically the way it sounds, right?
Right. So it's MRK.
Okay.
But it's a play on words and sound too.
Yeah,
so Marca, because Marca means brand in Spanish.
Yep.
Marca also means mark, right? So my whole tagline is, I'm here to help people leave a mark in the communities that they serve.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of play on words too, and it is misspelled on purpose, just because my worlds have always been this like Spanglish English and, you know, Honduran American. And so I decided that, you know, I could have a little bit of fun with the name of my business.
And do you only serve that market, that target audience, Latino business owners, or it's, you know, a wide gamut of clients that you work with?
You'd be surprised. Most of my clients are not Latino.
Okay.
So it's tricky to explain that whole marca means brand and marca means mark. But you know, at the end of the day, whether you're leaving a mark or whatever your tagline is, truly my mission is that one day I'm able to build a business that's big enough so that not only it pays for what I need to do on the personal side, raising my son and all that, but also that allows me to go back to Honduras, the town where I'm from, and start a nonprofit.
Nice.
So a place where kids have access to Wi-Fi, computers, printers, honestly, like even like just paper. So growing up in Honduras, the town that I was from, I'm not saying this is everyone's story in Honduras, but I come from a town where if you wanted to go to school and do well in school, they would give you these assignments. And you had to come out of pocket for pretty much everything, even like renting a book out of the local library, but there essentially isn't a local library.
So pencils, papers, you had to pay for that. So everything was a la carte.
Yes.
Wow.
And so that left a mark on me. I came here.
No pun intended. Right?
No pun intended. I came to this country and I realized that we have all these resources available to us as children. And I just didn't have that growing up. And unfortunately, I know that that's still the story of children in Honduras. So my goal is to build this business to a place where I can give back.
Well, you know, I'm going to chime in because it's a story that I've heard often from people that are not first generation, people that are immigrants themselves. They were born somewhere else. I have a really good friend from Australia. Shout out to you, Max. He's, and I'm going to do so, and I'm sure at this point he's used to it, but I know deep inside he hates it. I'm going to do a really horrible Australian accent. He's Chilean, but was born and raised in Australia, or as he likes to say, Oz. He's from Oz. And he says, hey, mate, you know, I'm tired of the Americans' excuse of, I can't make it here. Like, you know, there's zero excuse here. We have so many resources here and capabilities to make money wherever you want. And, and it's like, by the way, that's my horrible Australian accent. But, accent aside and, chuckles aside, it's true. Like, I have an episode coming up where I kind of just spitball and rant a bunch of things that the excuse that there's nothing out there for me. Like right now, there's this big sort of underlying dialogue that, because of the current economy, because of the, current administration, the president, this, silly war that we're in right now, and I'm not going to get into politics and none of that. But if you don't know how much a war costs, please do the research, because you'll immediately see how the only people that benefit from a war is the military complex and those that have investments in the military complex. Like I said, I'm not going to get into politics, but my point is this, that, granted, with all of those things aside, we are living in a time and in an era where, there is so many ways to turn that idea into a reality, right? AI, as much as you can cringe at it or whatever. Yes, there's so much AI slop out there, but at the same time, there's a lot of AI tools out there that you can implement into your business. And why? To make you more efficient, to make you more steadfast, basically to make you faster. Because what does faster mean? It frees up more time so you can concentrate on other things in your business. So, I love hearing, your goals to expand, your goals to grow, because at the end of the day, you want to sort of take on this philanthropy approach to your, homeland. And I love hearing that because, like I said, there's still this excuse of like, well, I can't, and it's too hard out there, and yada, yada, yada. But it's not. Like, this is the time. This is the time where you can literally become a millionaire almost overnight, because if you understand how to brand, how to position yourself, which we're going to get into, and the difference between positioning and messaging, this is the time that if you align yourself with the right people and invest in the right people, because at the end of the day, it's an investment. Some people may look at it as just like, it's a simple expense. Oh my God, it costs that. Well, yeah, I mean, you have to invest into make these things to become the dreams that you've been, holding on to for quite some time, to make those dreams a reality. So with that said, let's talk about where we left off. You said you work with a wide, array of clients. So let's paint a picture for the audience. Who is that sort of target audience member for you?
So for the last, I've been in marketing for 12 years, but for the last almost 6 now, I'm going on 6 in August of 2026. I've served over 100 entrepreneurs, visionaries, small business owners. And, I started out charging $300 a month and doing everything.
Got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere. Yeah. And recently I've decided to focus only on where the money is, the finances. So now I'm focusing on coaches, consultants, community builders in finance. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why.
Okay.
So when I saw things really start to shape up in my business, mm-hmm. It wasn't when I came up with the idea or when I had the logo or the tagline or the website or invested in a brand shoot or social media manager. It wasn't any of that. Or when I hit a certain number of followers. Mm-hmm. Truly, when I started to see and respect my business as its own entity, was when I brought on a chief financial officer, a fractional CFO.
Gotcha.
She became a financial advisor. She started off just doing a cleanup because I had to do taxes that year and everything was a mess. And from there on, we developed a relationship where every question, every decision had to do with, the bottom line was, is this going to make us money?
Yeah.
And at first I didn't, it was hard to wrap my head around that, right? Okay. When you're in marketing, you treat everything as an investment.
Yeah.
Well, we need content, so let's do a content shoot. Yeah. We need better branding, so let's rebrand, right? Everything becomes an investment, right?
Yeah. But there are also line items when you're looking at your business.
Exactly. And so I think there's also a lot of noise too. And out there, I see on social media that...
Oh my God, let's not get into social media.
People...
Where 23-year-olds are fanning themselves with your money.
People will tell you that, you can write off everything and anything, right?
Yeah.
So there's just so much noise. I was in a comfortable position when I started my business because I had a partner, right? I was married.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until that came crashing down on me that I had to woman up
Okay.
and become a provider.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, it was almost like the rug had been pulled from down under me. My finances had not been at the forefront of decision making in this business until it was like, okay, do I pay the social media manager who helps me with the clients? Or do I save up to afford rent and move out of my sister's, guest room that I was living in with my kid? So when it came down to that, then all of a sudden it was like, wait a minute, I need to start treating this with respect. Otherwise, it becomes a very expensive hobby that you're working 24/7.
So you bring up a good point. This is the underbelly of running a very, we both dabble in the visual sense. I'm more in the trenches with the complete build out, and you're the strategist, right? You're the person that's looking at these, tools and saying, does it serve the target audience or the demographic that you're after? But it took a CFO to take your work to the next level. And so I want to get into one aspect that you just brought up. You said it took that enlightenment and that relationship to help you understand, okay, or give you that wake-up call, like, what am I doing? So are you saying that prior to that, you were just treating it, you were just like, I guess, help me paint that picture. What was it like before the CFO? Because like I said, on the outer layer, the outside shell, people, ooh, marketing, ooh, branding, ooh, that sounds fun, or it's cool, or whatever. But like anything else in this world, there is another side to that coin, or the underbelly, right? So why do you feel you were in that place where it's like, okay, it's time to woman up?
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because when you're in it, you don't see the full picture.
Okay.
I like to use this analogy that as the business owner, as the CEO, the founder, you're in the pool. You're swimming in the pool, just trying to thread water and stay above water, right?
Yeah.
But when someone else comes with an expert lens on, it can see from the outside in. They have a full picture. They have a panoramic view of what's going on. And
they're relying on their expertise, right?
Of course.
And that's why I think we kind of touched upon this earlier, why business owners need to invest in the right professionals. In your case, you decided to now invest in a CFO because there's only so many hats we can wear, right?
Only so many hats we can wear. And so one thing that I love to say and preach is messaging is a package, right? It's yes, the words that you're putting out there, but also the product that you're putting out there or service, but also your pricing.
Yeah.
And I did a really good job of explaining that to my clients. I wasn't doing such a good job of treating my business in the same regard. So pricing was a huge thing that we had to work on.
Yeah.
So cutting back on expenses, but also pricing. Nadya, if you're pricing yourself at this level, you're going to attract a certain kind of client.
Correct. Yes.
Who expects, amazing things in a unicorn.
They want the world for what, $500?
Yes. Yeah. $500 a month is my budget. But
it's not to, like, for a lack of better terms, and maybe I'll bleep this out, maybe I won't. It's not to shit on the $500 clients, but it's like, there's a time and a place for that type of client. It may not be with, my agency or yours, but hey, if we can find that person for you, I still want to be involved in helping you, find a solution.
Yeah.
But there's psychology in pricing, right? Like you said,
100%.
$500 will attract the eager client that for $500 to them is the world to them.
Yeah.
But $500 to, a consultant or a coach, as you mentioned, the people you serve, $500 is just, another seed in the bucket.
That's what they pay for 1 hour of my time now, right? Versus, so let me say something that I think is important.
Yeah.
I started out charging $300 a month, doing everything and throwing everything but the kitchen sink. And that led to burnout and exhaustion, but
yeah.
also a lot of resentment. But I'll tell you this, looking back, I would not have skipped that phase.
Yeah, you had to learn.
You have to start somewhere.
You gotta roll up your sleeves.
You got to roll up your sleeve. You have to start somewhere. This was also almost 6 years ago.
Okay.
Right. And so I went to, my strategy was, I'm going to go to the low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Right. Like an apple tree.
Yeah.
I don't have access to the client that's 5K retainer, 10K retainer a month. I don't have access to that yet. Right. I was let go one day from my director of marketing and communications job.
Okay.
And then I had to make moves.
Yeah.
So I couldn't wait to build up that authority and positioning and messaging. I took whatever, came my way.
Yeah.
And that happened to be $300 clients a month that helped me pay for my first website and, so on and so forth. So you got to start somewhere.
But you have to start somewhere, and maybe it's, I'm trying to find a good term for this. Not that there's charm in that. There's a lesson in that, obviously, right? You have to start somewhere. I mean, I remember when I was doing $150 logos, and now the people that I have mentored or, students I've worked with or people that are, new to the career and those that are still have as many years as me and still charging, I'm like, what are you doing? Right? Like, and then let me guess. And I always ask, let me guess how many revisions have they requested? Like, like 10 revisions. Okay. What does it say in your contract? So the point is that there's psychology in the pricing, right? You have to start somewhere because you have to learn from somewhere. And then, it's a stark contrast to what I, build now. But I've also now, like you said, when you change your pricing, you change your target audience. We change your target audience. It goes from a pond now to a lake. And the opportunities, believe it or not, they actually widen. Yeah. Because I think the number one fear is that, oh my God, if I change my pricing, will I lose my clients? Yes, you will. But you'll also welcome new clients and clients that respect that. I remember one time I was at an event and there was a reporter, a Latina reporter from Washington, D.C. that went on to write a book, and she was very prominent. And I remember she said, I want to talk to you about this project. I said, sure. She said, she gave me a number. I'm like, okay, cool. Like you could ask, I think there's an intern over there that'll probably do it for that. She said, oh, you're rude, huh? I said, I'm not rude. I'm just letting you know how this is going to start. And it seems like how it's going to end, And in that direct approach, she actually ended up working with me. And I'm not saying, look, I'm not telling you to become an asshole to, win over clients. But one of the things I taught when I was doing portfolio class at Rutgers and at other schools like SUNY and CUNY, you can't be afraid to talk about pricing, and you have to stay firm with your pricing because, yes, there's going to be that lull. Oh my God, I'm not getting those $3,000 clients. Oh my God, I'm not getting that $10,000 client. Or, oh my God, when am I going to finally get that $100,000 client, et cetera? But it happens because, like you said, you have to change not only who you are, but the rooms that you're in. A good friend of mine, he was here in the podcast, Jack Watkinson, he said, I want to be in the right rooms with the right people at the right time. And so, yeah, there's sacrifice that comes with it. Yeah, years, right? I'm sure you're looking back and like, oh my God. Yeah, I don't want to scoff at those years where I was charging $300 a month, but you learn from that, right? There's value in that lesson, right? The school of hard knocks. But at the same time, too, there will be resentment, right? Because like, oh my God, I spent a year doing that or 2 years doing that, or God forbid, I don't know how long it's been. So it does come with resentment, but from that resentment, you realize the value, the positioning, and the rewards that you now have. So I like that you're talking about that, your comeuppance and the value of learning from the best school of all, the school of hard knocks, right?
Yeah. It's a hard lesson to learn, but what it taught me was that experience and hard work is not enough.
Yeah.
I have a master's degree. Okay. I can tell you I'm no dummy.
Yeah.
But I can tell you what I don't know.
Yeah.
And what I didn't know was how to price, how to cut expenses that were really expenses, not investments. I didn't know how to turn down clients that from the beginning I saw the red flags when it came to what they were able to afford.
Those red flags.
And listen, everybody's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So I don't look back and regret anything.
Yeah.
But to me, that's what led me to now, okay, I want to go where the money is, because I'm tired of working with businesses who the marketing looks amazing and they get comments about the content and your social media looks great.
Yeah.
And they're struggling to pay me. And I'm like, yeah, no, these have to go hand in hand. A business that's not profitable is a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
And not only for the business, for the people behind the business, the people you go back home to every day. So I'm very serious about that.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of working with businesses that are not realistic with what this game of business is.
My Lord, Nadya. I mean, you're coming out swinging. I'm laughing a lot because I've experienced all of that. I worked recently with I work with a lot of nice sized companies, but it's funny that you mentioned that's quite the anecdote or the one of the variables that does come up. Like, they invest this money and, ideally people are like, oh, how's that contract going? Like, are you going to continue it? And it's like, oh no, that contract ended. And like, why? They ran out of money. And it's like, well, why did they run out of money? Aren't they supposed to allocate a certain percentage every year? I'm like, I mean, ideally, yeah, that's the rules, right? Like, I remember when I was a kid that just got out of Rutgers, and one of my most precious resources that I had, and maybe this can be, because it still applies today, join those, SBA, Small Business Administration programs that most universities offer, or they do offer. You don't have to necessarily be a student, but it is available to other people that are interested. So if you see an SBA program, Small Business Administration program, a lot of times they are aligned with your local banks. Join those. That was a big game changer. That taught me how to adjust my pricing. So
awesome.
Once again, if your expertise is in marketing and branding, then that's your wheelhouse, right? But when it comes to finances, go align yourself with the finance people. But another great resource for me was this book, which they have to work on their acronym, GAG, Graphic Artists Guild. It's a big, thick book that's shaped like pretty narrow. That book gives you sample contracts. It gives you, it goes into the psychology of pricing. It tells you what the formula is that, I think I don't know what the number is today, but at that time it was 10 to 12%. They said it back in the days, 8%, then that went up to 10 to 12%. And normally how I bill is it has to be at least 15% of whatever your annual revenue is that goes into just marketing. Then branding and other stuff that's, that encompasses or involves other things. And then, so if you have $100,000 a year client, right? If let's even make it simpler, if it's a 10% rule that they have to put that into marketing and branding and advertising, that's $10,000 already. So that company should be prepared for that. Now, if they want to be more aggressive, those numbers go up, right? 15%, 25%, even like, oh my God, a quarter of my annual revenue. Well, it depends how aggressive you want to get. And more aggressive means more investment. So that book helped me a lot. And then you have to join groups that not always are there to bring you money, right? We join networking groups. We go to networking events. So in other words, networking is important, but you have to understand what kind of networking are you trying to accomplish. There's the networking that puts clients in front of you, but then there's also the networking that aligns you with other professionals. Like in our case, the networking group I'm a part of, Letip, letip.com. A member there when we were in Vegas, she connected me to you, Jacqueline Williams, right?
Yes.
So that's the power of networking, right? You're always 6 degrees in separation with someone. So in this case, she said, hey, she's moving to New Jersey. I would love to connect her with you. We connected. You almost joined the networking group. But that goes to show how a person from Arizona came to New Jersey, aligned with someone here, and then continue to align herself with other people through your ability to network. So I don't want to go off on this whole tangent, but networking is super important. But there's so many different facets to networking. There's networking to make money, but there's also networking to find resources and other people that believe in the power of collaboration over competition. So those are the things that help me, feel aligned, but also continue my journey to progression. But I love that you've mentioned, everything in regards to your journey and the nitty gritty that goes into this world of, trying to build an empire, right?